Thank you. Let me, first of all, recognize in our presence His Excellency Charles Savarin, our President, and Mrs. Savarin, Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, Speaker of the House of Assembly, Justice Errol Thomas, our resident judge, Your Excellency Dr. Liverpool, former President, and Mrs. Liverpool, Your Excellency Mr. Illud Williams, former President, and Mrs. Williams, Honorable Reverend Blackmore, Minister for Public Works, Energy and Ports, and Mrs. Blackmore, my cabinet colleagues and their spouses, Your Excellency Eric de la Moussaille, Ambassador of France to Dominica, and Mrs. de la Moussaille, Honorable Kelva Daru, Parliamentary Representative for the St. Joseph constituency, Ambassador Steve Farrell, Secretary of the Cabinet, and Mrs. Farrell, Mr. Kendall Johnson, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Works, other permanent secretaries, our dear Father Vanti August, who prayed for us this evening, Dr. Lennox Honeychurch, staff of the Ministry of Public Works, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends all, Dominicans, the media, let me greet you, good evening. I want to say to you, where we are this evening, the government shall install a monument in recognition of the tremendous contribution of the Kalinago people to Dominica. And that ceremony will be held next year. So we want to invite you very early to this very important ceremony. I also want to recognize in a very special way the government of France for its tremendous support by way of financial and technical support towards the construction of this very important highway for Dominica. I want to extend a special thank you to the Agence Française de Développement, a true partner to Dominica, a true ally in our economic and social transformation. The French government has always been with us, and we look forward to our continued very strong partnership as we seek towards addressing the challenges confronting not only Dominica, but the French Republic, and of course the entire world. So Ambassador, I would like you to express to your President, your government, and the people of the French Republic, Dominica's profound gratitude for the tremendous support which you continue to give us here in our country, Dominica. I also want to especially thank the Chinese government for the provision of close to 3,000 solar streetlights that will be installed across Dominica, including on this Dr. Nicholas Liverpool Highway. Some already have been installed so that you can have an appreciation for the type of streetlights we're talking about that will be installed. Thank you to the Chinese government for this generous gift. My dear friends, nothing gives me greater pleasure than to see large numbers of patriotic Dominicans assembled to celebrate yet another achievement of the government and people of Dominica. In welcoming you, I want to start by thanking you for traveling from near and far to witness the naming of this magnificent highway that links the Douglas Charles Airport with the southern half of Dominica, and in particular with Roseau, our capital city. We meet to name this stretch of road from where we stand to the Douglas Charles Airport after a distinguished son of the soil, a true patriot who, through his brilliance and outstanding work in academia, and in particular the law, and his loyal and dignified service to our country, have earned himself regional and international acclaim. His work has caused the world to take a closer look at Dominica. Ladies and gentlemen, I refer to none other than our honored guest, Dr. Nicholas Joseph Orville Liverpool, who served from October 2nd, 2003 to September 12, 2012 as the 6th President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. As our nation approaches the climax of celebrating its 36th anniversary of independence, and as we prepare for some exciting developments in Dominica thereafter, in pursuit of the fulfillment of the dream of true independence, it is absolutely essential that we honor our own and use them as role models to inspire our people to pursue nothing but the best for Dominica. This year's independence celebrations have the theme, Our Nation, Our Responsibility. This theme calls on every Dominican to be passionate about his country, to be at the forefront in proclaiming its beauty and splendor, to take ownership in preserving our way of life, and to work assiduously in making it the prosperous, peaceful, and just society that our ancestors have dreamt about for nearly 400 years. This theme calls on all of us to behave like true patriots and to use our God-given talents and our natural resources to make life better for our people. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, decent transportation and efficient communication are essential for the social and economic development of a country. Hence, the improvement of the primary infrastructure of a country, the facility to move people, goods, and services by land, sea, and air, should be a priority of all responsible governments throughout the world. For a mountainous, small island state like Dominica, this has posed and continues to pose formidable challenges. Successive governments have tried the utmost to improve the infrastructure, particularly roads, as well as air and seaports. There have been considerable improvements since independence in 1978, but there is more to do. And this government has the blueprint and has identified the financing for making our roads and ports as good, if not better, than those that exist in other parts of the region. For too long, the realization of the rich potential of our people, of our agriculture and agro-processed goods, of the tourism sector, and of the astute development of our natural resources have been retarded because of an insufficiency of decent roads that are costly to build and to maintain. Many stories have been told of our children who were denied an education because they could not travel to urban centers where educational facilities were located. We have also heard of farmers and their helpers who lost their life and limb as they struggled on slippery roads with heavy loads on their backs and heads in attempts to reach Roosevelt to sell their produce. Indeed, many of you here today can recall that in the heyday of the banana sector, there was the recurrent complaint of bruises to the fruit, which compromised its quality for export. This was largely blamed on the poor quality of the roads on which the fruit was transported. Here was a glaring example of how the condition of the roads affected the viability of agricultural enterprise. In general, the act of traveling from Melville to Roseau and vice versa was a tortuous exercise for both locals and visitors alike. that only the more adventurous endured with enthusiasm. At the end of the journey, it took some time for the aches, pains, and nausea to disappear. Those who were sick in the villages served by this road and who had to access the hospital in Roosevelt were not spared the agony to be endured in getting to urgently needed medical services. Of course, poor roads also meant that members of neighboring communities were severely constrained in meeting with each other, to interact, to exchange goods and services, to socialize, and to nurture a spirit of fraternal and inter-community relations. Today, my friends, this has changed for the better. This ceremony, therefore, sends a strong message to everyone, every young man and woman, every boy and girl in Bells and all the other villages along the way, that they are living in a country with a government that cares not only about the economy, but also for the humblest citizen who needs to go beyond his or her community to get education and other necessities of life that may not be available in the village. We have come a long way since colonial days, my dear brothers and sisters. I therefore make no apologies for reminding you what it was like during those bad old days. For example, in the early 1900s, just over 100 years ago, Henry Hesketh Bell, the second British administrator of Dominica, had much to say about our roads. After scoping out the possibilities and potential of the island, he realized that there was considerable work to be done in order to put the then colony in shape. By that, he obviously meant getting the resources out of Dominica to England. Dr. Lennox Honeychurch, in the Dominica story, recalls the words of Mr. Bell on Dominica's road infrastructure as follows, and I quote, "There are 3 or 4 miles of drivable road in the neighborhood of Roosevelt, but everywhere else, wheeled traffic is impossible. There are not more than 3 carriages in the whole island, and of course, not a single motor car. The interior of the island is entirely untapped, and only a fringe of land across the coast is cultivated. All of this shows that a great deal has to be done if the colony is to be put into good shape. At present, Dominica is stagnating," end of quote. Under Bell's energetic leadership, the road known as the Imperial Road was constructed. It stimulated agricultural production in the center of the island. By the time he had completed his term of service, the Treasury statements actually showed a surplus of £5,000, which no doubt made its way out of the country onto England. Today, the infrastructure is being developed for the benefit of Dominicans. In fact, as you will hear later, the improvement of infrastructure is part of a package for development which links roads to economic development, which in turn finances essential social services like education and health, which in turn enable our people to become more enterprising and productive. When all our social and economic policies and programs are taken together, you will see how they create energy and wealth that is greater than the sum total of the inputs. This is the virtuous circle, which generates synergy and the resources for a higher standard of living. This is what we have been doing for Dominica during the past 14 years, and this is what we will continue to do in the years ahead. My dear friends, I am sure that you have heard some people say that too much money has been spent on roads and other forms of infrastructure in Dominica in recent years. They claim that the rehabilitation of the Poncasi to Melville Road was not a priority. All I want to say in response is that their thinking is backward and colonial. Anyone who wants to go back to the Henry Hesketh Bell model is certainly unpatriotic. Today's event is possible because of the meticulous attention that the Dominica Labour Party government has given to improving the roads, both primary and secondary, in Dominica. Under the 10-year road sector plan, we have targeted 85% of the road network to be in good condition by the end of 2015, and moving to 95% by the end of 2020. We are well on the way to meeting these targets, and this road is testimony to that fact. The next wave of road improvements and upgrading targets the East Coast roads, from Poncasset to Dalis, and from Poncasset through Castle Bruce and the Carib Territory onto Hatton Garden. Funding for the works to be carried out has already been negotiated and secured from the European Union and from the World Bank. A further $30 million have been secured from the Caribbean Development Bank for the construction of the roadway from Layu to Poncasset, and financing has been also secured from the government of China for the construction of the new bridge down by the hot water down in Layu. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us understand that most Dominicans still live and work in scattered communities. We cannot ignore them or wish them away. We cannot act as though they did not exist or do not have a need to travel. We shall continue to do all that is possible to ensure that modern conveniences such as potable water, electricity, internet, and telephone services are available to them all. The primary infrastructure that all of these conveniences rely on is decent roads. As you will hear in my Independence Day address, all roads in Dominica lead to the planned international airport, the improved seaports, the development of our human and natural resources, and a higher standard of living for all Dominicans. We have a formula for social and economic development that has already begun to deliver the goods to the people of Dominica. Now I am sure that you have asked yourself why we decided to name this highway the Dr. Nicholas Liverpool Highway. Let me take a little time to explain why. Dr. Liverpool was born in Granby, a vibrant community renowned for its social and cultural dynamism. It is also the birthplace of Midnight Groovers, a band that has won wide acclaim with its imaginative and original lyrics and unique style, portraying life and challenges in what was a plantation community. His parents obviously had great expectations for him, for they named him after two saints and one of the gentlemen who designed and flew the first aircraft. He did not disappoint his parents. He topped the scholarship examination of his time, the equivalent of what today is called the National Assessment Examination. He entered the Dominica Grammar School, and there he excelled at the arts and languages. I am told he was very witty, which perhaps was merely a manifestation of his superior intellect. His empathy and loyalty to his friends was and remains profound. One of his contemporaries recalls with appreciation an incident that he says he will never forget. The boys were sitting the school certificate exam, the equivalent of CXC today. The chemistry exam was about to commence, and Nick noticed that this particular friend of his, who was actually quite good at the subject, was absent. Nick left the exam room, ran to his friend's home in Roosevelt, shook him up, and they both ran back to sit the exam. They both had good cause to rejoice when this friend of his topped the chemistry exam that year. In the 1950s was a period of mass migration of families to the United Kingdom. Young Liverpool landed in England with his relatives shortly after completing his schooling in Dominica. The young man immersed himself in work and study, and by 1965 had earned himself a PhD in law from Sheffield University. A consummate researcher and lecturer, Dr. Liverpool has published many articles on various aspects of law, some of which are regarded as essential reading for law students. His work spans the Caribbean and the African continent, and he has been a consultant to many regional governments and international organizations, such as the Inter-American Development Bank, the United States Agency for International Development, and the Pan-American Health Organization. Dr. Liverpool's outstanding work has earned him recognition throughout the academic world. He is the holder of 3 honorary doctorates from the University of the West Indies, Sheffield University, and Hull University. He is also holder of the Order of the Caribbean Community and also holds the Dominica Award of Honor, the highest award conferred by the government and people of Dominica. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Liverpool served as president of the Commonwealth of Dominica for 9 years, from 2003 to 2012. He served with dignity and aplomb. His addresses at the opening of Parliament were gems of wisdom, scholarship, fatherly advice, and reflected a complete grasp of the issues and concerns of the citizenry of Dominica. And we can all find his books at every single school, his speeches at every single school in Dominica and our public libraries. My friends, I am deeply moved by one particular address of His Excellency Dr. Liverpool. This was at the opening of the first meeting of the 7th Parliament. His theme was civil rights, civic duties, and responsibilities. He paid particular attention to the subject of patriotism. I therefore think that it is most appropriate in this season of independence for citizens to be reminded of the words of this committed and faithful servant. Dr. Liverpool told us this, and I quote, "Patriotism connotes love and loyalty to one's own country, and the country that we generally love is a country of our birth. A patriot supports his country, is inspired by it, cares deeply for it, and is prepared to serve and defend it. Genuine patriotism of a citizen is of great benefit to any country. A man ought to be proud of the place to which he belongs," end of quote. He then went on to say, and I quote, "It is also very important to distinguish between patriotism and nationalism. The difference is vital, since nationalism is often mistaken for patriotism. The patriot has a form of affection to his country, somewhat akin to family love. He loves his family because it is his, and so far as he is concerned, that bond which draws him to other members is unbending. The patriot therefore loves his country because he belongs to it. He can laugh at it in the same way that members of a family laugh at each other's foibles, since affection takes for granted the imperfections of those whom it loves. Nationalism, on the other hand, has often to be grounded in resentment and rivalry. It is militant by nature, and its typical style is belligerent. The nationalist has to prove that his country is always right," end of quote. Dr. Liverpool then concluded with his telling words, and I quote, "We also ought to be extremely careful to ensure that love for a preferred political party does not in any way compete with love for a country, since love for party often manages somehow to commingle itself with patriotism. We must at all times be on our guard and avoid becoming so beholden to our respective political parties that we find ourselves unable to place love of country ahead of the particular political party which we support," end of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, this fatherly advice and instruction on patriotism is but one example in a reservoir of opinions and guidance Dr. Liverpool has given to governments across the region and here at home. The late 1960s and through to the 1970s was a period of turbulence in labor relations in Dominica. Throughout this period, Dr. Liverpool was repeatedly called to serve as a commissioner on numerous commissions of inquiry established to resolve disputes of the bargaining bodies of workers and their employers. His career is littered with reports of commissions on which he served in this capacity and also as a consultant to regional governments and international agencies on a wide range of legal matters. Highly respected among his peers in the legal profession, it is on the subject of land law that Dr. Liverpool has no equal. Many a lawyer in and out of the region today would attest that any competencies they have on the subject are due in large part to Dr. Liverpool, the law lecturer. Many of them who did this course at the Caville campus of the University of the West Indies confess that his lectures were well-reasoned, thoughtful, and incisive, and instilled in them a passion for the subject. Throughout his journey as law lecturer, dean of the Faculty of Law, ambassador, commissioner, arbitrator, and consultant, Dr. Liverpool has remained a humble man. These days, he derives no greater pleasure than to be up in the hills of Belle-Bishopé, where he cultivates a number of crops with his gardener, his famous gardener, a very dear friend of mine. However, I am sure that with such an active mind, which time has not dulled, he must be putting together the manuscript on his memoirs. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Liverpool has been a good and faithful servant of the Commonwealth of Dominica and our region. In his work, he has made an outstanding contribution to Caribbean jurisprudence. He has overcome challenges along the way to rise to the top of his chosen profession. May his example inspire all Dominicans to be achievers and not complainers. Just as Dr. Liverpool took the high road to success, may this 36-kilometer highway from where we are in Poncasé to the Douglas Charles Airport be the road that opens up new opportunities. Be the road that opens up new opportunities for success to those who live along it and who use it regularly. May all of those who use this highway remember the man after whom it was named as a person who loved this country more than anything else, and the one who rose above politics to ensure that whatever he did was for the good of his country and those who call it home. Ladies and gentlemen, on this, the first day of November 2014, the year of our Lord, it gives me great pleasure to name the highway from Poncasé to the Douglas Charles Airport the Dr. Nicholas Liverpool Highway. Dr. Liverpool turned 80 this year, and from the look of things, I have no doubt he shall live another 80 years. So may God continue to bless Dr. Nicholas Liverpool, his wife, and his family. May God bless Dominica. May God bless us all. I thank you very much. And I thank you for showing up in such large numbers to show your gratitude and thanks to Dr. Liverpool for his service to Dominica and to the world. May God bless you all. Happy Independence to you. See you soon. Thank you.